I'm in a very good mood this morning because I'm doing my favorite thing, reading. Guys, at the beginning of this month, I had a TBR of around 2 books for this month. I'm not even joking. I had nothing to read. But as it happens every single month, I was inundated with a bunch of recommendations and people were saying, read this, read that. And now my TBR is about like 20 books long and I don't know what to read. So I did what I do when I can't decide, and that is ask everybody else. Today I'm going to be reading books that were recommended to me by you guys on TikTok and Instagram. I put a story up on my Instagram, I put a TikTok up, and then I just waited to see what people would recommend for me to read based on my very, very long romantasy TBR right now. And we are reading romantasies. We're on the cusp of spring right now in Australia. I feel like that transition from high fantasy to romance needs to be made, so we're doing a bit of romantasy right now. I've been hearing a lot of different romantasy names being thrown around in the past month or so. Arcana Academy, Silvercloak, A Forbidden Alchemy, In the Veins of the Drowning, like it just keeps going on, and I was like, you know what? We need to settle down. I need to narrow down my list. I need to find the best books out of my TBR, just forget the rest and just focus on reading a couple because I am overwhelmed. I get stressed when I have a long TBR. When I first asked Instagram about what I should be reading, someone commented a book and I immediately said yes, purely because the cover's really pretty. Like, that's all I said yes for. It was The Hurricane Wars by Thea Guanzon. Look at the cover! I'm so thankful I'm Australian because this cover really outstrips the US cover. I just did a quick Google search. It's Reylo inspired, not fanfic, but like there are serious Reylo elements that are in this book. Now, one thing about me, huge Star Wars fan, I do not like Reylo. I don't ship them at all. But weirdly, all of the books I've ever read that have been inspired by this couple, like Not Another Love Song, The Love Hypothesis, I really, really have enjoyed my time reading those books. So this one, I'm pretty sure it's going to be in the same vein. This will, however, be my first romantasy that was inspired by Reylo. The other two were contemporary romances, and as much as I love them, I think there's a lot of potential with a romantasy to be a serious enemies to lovers trope. Now, for those of you who are unfamiliar with Star Wars or with Kylo Ren and Rey and what their ship exactly entails, basically they are on opposite sides of an intergalactic war, we could say. There is something called the Force, which is the source of all magic. There is a light side to the Force, which is Rey is the last remaining wielder of that light side. And then there is the dark side of the Force. Kylo Ren is like the head honcho of the dark magical wielders. So dark, light. I think there is wonderful potential for an enemies to lovers romantasy on the basis of that dynamic. Based on what I've heard of this book above and beyond the Reylo stuff, there is a knight empire that is basically just trying to conquer a bunch of kingdoms, and they have a magical power called the Shadow Forged, so dark magic. The heir to that empire, his name's Alaric, and then there are light weavers who have pure good powers or whatever, and our main character Taliesin she might be the last remaining light weaver or something like that. One has light magic, one has dark magic. The light magic must stand against the Empire of Darkness. So Taliesin and Alaric are supposed to be real enemies. They threaten each other's existence. Let's get started with this. It's around 450 pages long and we've got a map. Yes! I'm 60 pages in right now. Let me share my thoughts. Can I just say, the world building is a little shaky and the pacing feels a bit off. Things are happening really, really quickly, and I kind of like when we just jump into the action, but yeah, things are going a bit fast for my liking, and that is an issue because a lot of place names, things, stories, magical powers, they're just being thrown in a little bit. So like I said, the world building itself is quite shaky. I don't think there was enough time or care taken to really flesh the world out. Perhaps this will improve, perhaps I will grow to understand what's going on. But it's a beautiful day outside. You can always tell if it's a beautiful day outside because the room looks white and not yellow. So I'm thinking maybe I will go to Kmart and buy bookish props right now. Yes! I just checked Spotify. Yeah, I'm going to continue listening to the audiobook on the way there. I am a little busy today, but I will continue reading into the night and hopefully give you an update when we're a little further into the book. Good morning. Okay, I got a lot of reading done last night, which you would have seen if you noted the page number that I stopped reading on. I am currently over halfway through, and at the beginning 15% of this book, when I saw you last, I was complaining about the excessive info dumping. I said that the world building was really messy. It was just stuff thrown in there. It honestly made me so confused, and I found it really hard to read the book at that point. But when we got to around like the 20 to 30% mark, I want to say, I couldn't put it down. I couldn't put it down. I was well past my bedtime reading this. So the book opens with a land called Sardovia being conquered by the Night Empire. So Taliesin is fighting against Alaric there. Eventually the dark side does end up winning. But towards the tail end, just around here, Taliesin discovers that she is the secret lost princess of another land called the Dominion, and I believe it's a cluster of islands. So after Sardovia is defeated by the Night Empire, Taliesin goes to the Dominion and begins to train in her powers as a light weaver, but also her duties as a princess, because the people of the Dominion know exactly who she is. They know she is the princess. She begins to train there. Now eventually the Night Empire comes knocking at the door of the Dominion as well, and they said, "We want to conquer your lands, surrender peacefully to us, there doesn't need to be any bloodshed." But instead the Queen of the Dominion, who is Taliesin's grandmother, proposes instead an alliance between the two. And what am I talking about? A marriage. Of course, a marriage of convenience, an arranged marriage between two enemies. Now Alaric does not know that Taliesin is the lost princess, but Taliesin knows that she is to marry Alaric. Eventually they meet. Alaric is shell-shocked by it, and they're currently in the process of negotiating on the marriage. And of course that leads to a lot of forced proximity, because during the negotiations, which takes several weeks by the way, Alaric is staying at the palace at the Dominion. I'm over halfway through the book and they haven't kissed, and I love that. I love a proper slow burn. I feel like I'm going to finish the book within the next like 2 hours or so. This is a duology, I believe, so I don't know how this is going to be wrapped up. I don't know whether Alaric is going to realize that he's on the evil side, because right now he thinks he's doing the right thing. There's a lot to work out, a lot of messes to fix, and only 150 pages to do it in, so let's get to reading. Just finished, but I need to collect my thoughts before I can come back with a review, so bear with me, I'll be right back. I've thought about it and I've decided to give this book 4 stars. I absolutely ate this up. It had me real worried at the beginning of the story because, like I said, there was a lot of information dumping when it came to the world, geographical information, histories, the backstories of the characters, the magic. I really thought it would end up being a 3-star read. I didn't even know if I'd continue on to the second book, but once we hit that magical like 17 to 20%, I could not put this book down. It was so addictive, so good. And the main reason, of course, is the romance. The romance was driving the whole plot forward. There's one thing about these ex-fanfic writers, the romance is exquisite. Like, they know how to get that romance down even if the world isn't perfect. That is what will keep you reading, and that's exactly what I found the case to be in this book. I'm very happy. I had a really good time reading this. So yeah, 4 stars. What a good book. And we're back. Today's read is another one that came highly recommended. Not only did people reply to my stories and my TikToks telling me that I should read this book, but I also have been seeing it posted non-stop. It's a bit of a new release as well, so I thought it would be perfect. And that book is In the Veins of the Drowning by Kaylee Cassidy. Now, this book wasn't actually on my radar until very recently. It was only when I heard my friends talk about it that I knew I had to read it. For starters, this book has been compared to Rachel Gillig's writing, and one thing about me is I love Rachel Gillig. She has very rapidly become one of my auto-buy authors, especially with The Night and the Moth this year. That was so good. So when I heard this author, Kaylee Cassidy, being compared to Rachel Gillig, I knew I had to get on that as soon as possible. And what I mean by that is it's got that gothic, more spooky kind of fantasy vibe, which is perfect. And I picked today because it's actually raining outside, so I thought it would be the perfect time to start a gothic, more gloomy kind of fantasy, romantasy. I also know that this is a story with sirens in it, and I haven't really read many books that feature like oceanic kind of mythology. I haven't really been reading much sirens, pirates, mermaids, whatnot for a very long time now. So this is going to be the first siren fantasy that I've read in a really long time. It's going to be another gothic romantasy, which I've been really enjoying this year, and I think that we really need to get into this book. I'm very excited to see how it goes. Okay, it's a nice short book. I'm 25% of the way in. This is what's happening. Our main character, Imogen, is the ward of an exceptionally cruel king called King Nemea. And in King Nemea's kingdom, sirens are killed by these hunters. And she is set to get married to the captain of the hunters. So she is about to marry the man who kills all the sirens, but Imogen has a secret. She is secretly a siren. We don't know much about her past or her backstory or how she came to be King Nemea's ward. The book starts off at a ball, which is to celebrate the engagement of Imogen to this captain, and there are foreign dignitaries present, including one king, King Theodore. And in Theodore's realm, or Theodore's kingdom, sirens are not hunted. They are allowed to live peacefully. And she runs to King Theodore to beg for refuge in his kingdom. By taking Lady Imogen away from King Nemea's kingdom, King Theodore basically declares war. So I don't know where it's gonna go. I do like the atmosphere. It's not like Rachel Gillig in the misty, foresty kind of aesthetic. It's more like dark, ocean, salty, grimy. That's how it feels. So I am enjoying the atmosphere of it. I don't know too much about our characters and how they behave just yet. Let's keep reading. Let's see where we go. I'm 40% in now, so not that much further in, but I just wanted to give you an update because I want to get this off my chest. Now, I could regret saying this as I get further into the story, but this feels like a poor man's Rachel Gillig. I think that the atmosphere is there, the writing is sometimes there. I'm just not feeling it story-wise. There is something about Rachel Gillig's stories that are enchanting, that really grip you, even if they're not fast-paced. You are fully invested in the world. Whereas in this one, I don't know. Sometimes the writing goes between flowery and then it just goes very like colloquial. Also, with our main character Imogen, I think she's a bit of a confusing character because she's either like stubborn, badass, kind of standoffish, or she's really meek. Like sometimes within the space of a couple of sentences, she just flips between the two so quickly. I understand if someone's like meek at first and they grow to become a stronger character, but with her, it's like, I'm not really sure what sort of a character she's supposed to be. With most books, if I start reading them on my Kindle, I wait till I'm 20% in and then decide whether I want to get a physical copy of the book or not. I decide that at the 20% mark. But with this book, I don't know whether I want to get a physical copy or not, and I'm 40% in. So I feel a little like this might not be what I thought it was, but of course 40% in. I think I'll update you once again, maybe at like 70% or so, but I really hope this does work out for me. I'm just gonna keep going. I am about to do something that I don't do very often on this channel at all, and that is I am going to DNF this book. I promised you an update at 70%. We are indeed at 71% in the book, and girl, it's just not my cup of tea. Before I get into the reasons of why I ended up DNFing the book, I do have to tell you the things I loved about this book. Firstly, I love the concept. I love the idea of using sirens or more sea-like storytelling. We don't get that very often, and I think it's a wonderful idea. I think that romantasy, we could always use a little more originality, and this was a fantastic idea. The second thing was it was very well written for a debut. I liked the writing. There weren't really mistakes there. Nothing seemed clunky in terms of the writing itself, but I think the best thing about this book was the atmosphere, without a doubt. It's got that dark, gothic, briny, eerie kind of atmosphere that I have come to really love in stories. And because it has that nautical, like ocean, siren element, it makes it all the more better. Like it just feels like the ocean at night, except eerie. And I really love that. I think the author did a great job with that. Now, onto the list of things I hate, and I have written them down. Firstly, we had very little world building. There really wasn't much at all. Secondly, there was no engagement with the folklore and the mythology that surrounds sirens. I'm not even saying you have to stick to the like folklore or the mythology. Just tell me what a siren is. I know what it is, but like, what is it in this world? Explain that to me. But there was no explanation of that. There was no explanation of why King Nemea and his people are hunting the sirens down. It just wasn't really clicking for me, and it should have clicked by 71%, let me tell you that. And then there was the other thing I flagged, where the author couldn't really decide how she wanted her female character to act, whether she wanted her to be meek and terrified or like sassy and confident and headstrong. The last thing, it bugged me so much. It was so insta-lovey. They were suddenly all over each other, and it made no sense to me as to why they were all over each other. Now, there is actually an element at the very beginning of the book where Imogen makes a blood bond with King Theodore, and the reason she does this blood bond is it prevents her from using her siren abilities to hurt Theodore. But the complication of that blood bond is it makes them physically close. It makes them want each other. So that's why it felt so insta-lusty to me, because the only real thing they had tying each other together was this blood bond. There was no substance to the romance there. I really am kind of upset about this. This is not the update I wanted to give you. I thought I would love this book so much. It had all the markers of a book that I should have loved, but unfortunately I didn't. And I feel like right after this I'm gonna go read the second book of the Hurricane Wars, A Monsoon Rising, because you know what? At least I know I have something to look forward to there. But yeah, really sad that this didn't work out for me. I wish it had. And of course that means we are at the end of this video. We only got 1 3/4 of a book done, but that's okay. Make sure you follow on Instagram and TikTok, because I love doing these little polls, especially when I need to narrow my TBR down. So make sure you're there and you can help me make decisions in the future, because I sure as hell can't make my own decisions. That is all for today's video, and I will be seeing you next week. Goodbye.